This is the 2002 Mazda 626 that we're going to be doing an alternator on today. We got some wheel lock keys also, so I got to find those. But yeah, let's get started. Alright, first things first. You can even see it. There's the alternator underneath all that. I want to disconnect the battery first. Don't want to short anything out. And the battery's completely dead on this vehicle. So I had to get the trunk open, get the wheel lock key, I had to jump it, but shut off again. And it looks like it's going to be, you know, the only real way it looks like to get to is going to be taking this wheel off. So I'm going to jack it up and take the wheel off. Alright, and here I'm disconnecting the negative cable. I have a 10mm wrench. Yours may be bigger or smaller depending on whether you've had yours replaced or not. This one looks like it's cracked, so it may need a replacement. I'd say it does, but I'm not here for that right now. I'm here to loosen that. It's loose, so just wiggle it off, take it off, and put it aside to where it doesn't touch the body anywhere. And before jacking, make sure your parking brake is pulled and it's in park or neutral or whatever it is, depending on your transmission type. Also, before jacking, if you do have wheel lock keys, ones similar to these, there are some that you can impact, but these ones aren't exactly the strongest ones. You'll sometimes end up breaking the lock there, and then you have to go through buying another one, and that's no fun. So I'm gonna break this loose by hand first before I jack it up, so I won't have to impact it while it's in the air. And since you never want to rely on just the hydraulic jack to hold it there, I went ahead and lifted both sides. I put jack stands on the subframe where it meets the lower control arm. I went ahead and put my lug nuts back in the wheel so don't lose them. Alright, next thing we're going to do to get to the actual alternator, because it's right behind here. Right now I'm sitting where the wheel used to be. We're going to take off this plastic cover here, which is one bolt, one clip, and this one has been stripped out by whoever pulled this off last. But looking at the back side, we should be able to push it out with a screwdriver from the back. And then after you get those out, you got one more. Yep, one more, and then one right there. And this should come off. So also for this cover, it looks like two of the bolts on the bottom side are 8mm. They require 8mm sockets. These ones are 10s. So just to take this off, you'll need a 10mm socket and an 8mm socket. And for the lug nuts, the 21. And then we'll get back to this clip. And then now I'm going to switch to the 8mm. To get the two that are on the bottom, and then I'll have to go back to a 10 while I'm down there. here's the 3 10mm size ones. The 8mm, the 2 of them, I put those back in so I wouldn't get them mixed up in what hole they're supposed to go. So I'm going to set these just over here, and then I'll set them inside the cover whenever I take this off. Alright, for this clip, what it looks like I'm going to end up doing is I got a flat blade screwdriver, and you can see the clip right there. So I'm going to put the screwdriver in there and then turn it, and it'll push the clip out. You can see it's out a little bit now, and then screwdriver underneath there, and just kind of walk it out of there. And then now that that's out, it should just pop right out. And this comes over here, and I'll put the fasteners back with it. Alright, and right here, when you take the belt off, this threaded area right here is, can't tell if you guys can see it or not. This threaded area that my finger is touching, that is how you adjust the tightness of the belt. And to be able to loosen it or tighten it, right now we're going to be loosening to get the belt off. You need to loosen this bolt right here that threads into it through this body. And then you can't see the head of the bolt, but right there on the bottom side of the alternator, we're going to go from the back side and loosen the bolt. And we're actually going to have to take that one all the way out, but first we're just going to loosen it to get the belt off. So that's our next goal. This bolt right in the center that you have to loosen is a 12mm. So we're going to get our wrench on it and loosen that just enough to where it'll move. You don't need to take it all the way out yet. You can if you'd like to, but let's go ahead and do that actually. And now that it's out, you just don't want to drop it. And then I'm going to set that right here. Now that we've taken that out, one thing to point out is that you want this to go exactly how it was. And that means the round side was up. So you can kind of see how one side of this block is rounded for this adjuster bolt to go through, and the other side, if I can spin it around here, and if you guys can even see it, is flat. So you want the rounded side up, and you just leave that how it is, and then we'll go to the bottom bolt. Alright, now we're down to the bottom bolt. It seems like it's that bolt right there. Seems like it is a, if I can get it on there, a 14. And it helps to have a slightly shorter wrench that doesn't interfere with the rack boot. But while we still have it tight, the connectors that are on the alternator, that one right there, if I can show you guys, I'll try to. But it, the part that you squeeze to release it isn't actually visible. It's inside of the alternator body. So I'll try to show you guys that real quick. I don't know what, I can't see what I'm pointing at, but let's go ahead and get the ratchet out of the way while I show you this. But for this, you actually just kind of reach your thumb inside there a little bit, squeeze it, and it comes out. See? see this part right here is what you squeeze, and it's just a bit, you can barely get your finger on it. The power wire on the alternator also has a section that needs to be squeezed, and it's right there. So you just want to squeeze that, and then it pops open, and then there's your nut that holds on the power wire to the positive post of the alternator. So we're going to go ahead and loosen this lower bolt wherever it went. You can see it better right there. Loosen that, and that looks like it might be a 12, maybe a 10. So we'll go get the socket for that, and then we will get them out. So that broke loose, and then you just keep loosening. You don't want to take it all the way out before you get that wire off, though. So we're going to go ahead and get the 12 to take that off. And it's also very important, if you didn't take the negative cable off, don't try to mess with that yet, because you can, if you're touching that and then your tool touches the body or anything metal, it will arc, and that's the last thing you want. So before you put anything on that, be sure that you have the negative cable removed. So this nut up here was in fact a 12. So you're going to get your socket on it. I barely have enough room where I'm at. Get it on there. Once it's loose, you should be able to reach up there by hand and get it off there. Power wire is disconnected. So now we'll go back to getting that bolt all the way out, and then we'll start pulling the alternator out. Alright, now everything mechanical holding this in, the fasteners and even the electrical connectors are all disconnected. Now it's really easy to just come over here, grab it, and then pivot it towards you and slip the belt off. And now your belt's off. Alright, so right now we're hung up on this bracket. Put a focus on it. What I'm going to do is put my pry bar in between the alternator and the bracket right there. Make sure it's in there, and then just pull and walk it out of there. Alright, so now that it's off the bracket, no longer on there, it's just kind of sitting in there. We gotta try to get it through this space here, and hopefully it'll fit. Okay, I was having a bit of difficulty getting it out through there, so the bracket the alternator was attached to, I'm actually going to unbolt that and take it out of there to try to get some room to bring it through this hole here. This doesn't want to come out the back with the exhaust and rack and axle all close together. It just doesn't want to fit through there, so I'm going to take this bracket off. This alternator bracket though is held on by 3 bolts, one there on the, this is the bracket right here. 1 bolt there, and another bolt to the left. You can see where the third one mounts to between them, but I'll go ahead and show you it from the top. And that's the third one viewed from the top. And both of these, or I guess all 3 of them, require a 14mm socket, so that's what you'll need. Alright, last bolt is out. There goes the bracket. I have the other 2 bolts up top. And now hopefully that's enough room to get this alternator out. Alright, right now the issue I'm having is this seems like the way it's supposed to come out. The only problem is it's just not quite enough clearance with the engine where it's at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen the motor mount a bit and let the engine drop down by loosening these bolts, and hopefully get a little bit more clearance. These bolts right here are nuts that are 17mm. So, and there's one first one you gotta take off on the left side that holds down the ground right there. So you gotta take that off first before you actually get to the others. And you don't want them off all the way. Just a little bit of clearance. Let it drop down a little. You can see it. Now we drop down maybe like ½ an inch, if that, and we'll try to get this out again. Alright, the oil dipstick tube seems to be blocking the alternator from coming out just a little bit. So just to try to make a little bit more room, I'm going to take out the dipstick tube. It's this 1 bolt right there. I already took it out. Before you remove it, you want to take out your dipstick so you don't bend it. And then it's just held in with an O-ring in the oil pan, and then you just pull it and it pops right out. And then now hopefully there's enough room. Alright, hopefully you guys can see good enough. This is how the alternator is going to come out. Yes. We're going to fight. It's now out. As you can see, there's a little bit of a wrestle to get it out. I had to lube up this boot because it wanted to rub against it. I didn't want it to rip. So I spread silicone on it to get it to slide a little bit. This had to be bent out of the way a little bit. But other than that, we're ready to go back in. Alright, so now I'm going to put the alternator back in. The new one in. Alright, now it's shoved back in there, but before I do much else, I gotta put this bracket back in. So it goes like this. I'm gonna just start it by putting this bolt in. Alright, once you get the alternator bracket on, you want to go ahead and just put that bolt in and run it in a little bit, but do not tighten it, because you still want the alternator to be able to pivot whenever you put the belt on. Go ahead and plug in your electrical connectors, plug that connector in, and then connect your power wire to the post, and then just we'll continue up top. Alright, so now we're going to try to put this top bolt back in. You got to pivot the alternator back, and that's why you want to keep that bottom bolt loose so that this will move freely. Alright, now we got the bolt in. Next thing is going to be putting the belt on, which doesn't take long. You just want to make sure you stay on. It has a pulley right in there. See if you can see the belt. Not really. See the belt move? That's the pulley. You want to be careful. You want to be sure you stay on there. Move the alternator as far towards the engine as you can. Alternator belt is on. Now it's got to tighten it. Now that the belt is good and tight, I tighten the top bolt on the alternator, and now I'm going to go below and tighten the bottom one. And then the last thing I'll have to do is put the dipstick back in, and should be done. After, I mean, put the wheel and cover back on, but we can start it up and see if it's charging. We got the cover back on. We got the new alternator in there. Dipstick back in. We got the battery hooked back up. Now I just got to put the wheel back on, lower it, and start it up.